Okay, very good. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this session with me and Hillary. So my name is Saman. I'm the Vice Dean of the École de Ponts Business School, and I'm also the designer of the LeadTech program that we're delivering in partnership with other business school, a fantastic partner, which brings a lot of energy and a lot of diversity to the program. And in terms of values, we can't be more aligned. And also the dean is a graduate of our executive doctoral programs at École de Pont Business School. So we have a lot in common. We have a lot of entangled values and mission objectives. So this program is designed to help executives understand leadership aspects of technology, understand how to lead with technology, and also understand how to leverage technology for a more enhanced leadership. So for this session, I have the pleasure of having Hillary, who's a graduate of the program, and we're going to hear from Hillary about her experience before the program, during the program, and after the program, and what she could tell herself in the future of her path if she knew how this program could help her achieve all the great stuff that she's doing today. So thank you very much, Hillary. Welcome to this session. Please present yourself. Where are you connecting from? And the floor is yours. Thanks.
Thank you, Saman. So glad to be here. I'm Hillary. I'm calling in from the Oregon coast in the west coast of America. I've been back in America 9 months, and I was previously based in Paris, France for 10 years since 2015. I now work with a company called Storycraft Lab, which we make empathy tech to facilitate belonging, purpose, and collaboration in experiences. And it's a software layer which we roll out to Fortune 50 and Fortune 500 companies.
Very good. Very good to have you, Hillary. So maybe a bit more about Hillary, yourself as a person.
I talked for a while. I'll keep it short. So, I was born in San Francisco, the heart of innovation, and I found it so curious that when I part of the Lead Tech program was to go to San Francisco and study the culture, the mindset, the innovation, the startup ecosystem. And I remember when I went on that trip, I was like, I was born here. My parents met here. They were part of the new wave of semiconductor technology, and they were part of a startup that launched like fab fabrication and fab design for semiconductors. And naturally, from that family background, I became a professional dancer. My parents always told me, you know what, follow your dreams, do what you love. Um, and I took that to heart. I became a professional dancer at 17 years old in ballet, and I went to my first university, University of Utah. I promised my parents I would get a degree as the first in our generation, our family, to get a college degree in dance. And of course, I graduated in the Great Recession of 2008, where all the possibilities were shifting. And I think that was a story of my resilience. I was always told, oh, you better marry rich or you'll never make money. And I really disagreed with those people. And in the Great Recession, I started owning my own company. I came into business ownership. And when I owned my own dance studio, I came into software and technology innovation. I was able to transform a small boutique school. It was 2010, the beginning of, people using their credit card to buy things online and the trust of that new system. And we made an online registration system. We moved from paper to digital. And it 300% growth year over year for 3 years. Two facility expansions. And I was like, wow, I love entrepreneurship. Yet I also need to be a professional dancer at the international level and achieve my dream. I was in Salt Lake City at the time, and I was 27 years old, which was getting old for a dancer. And I was still in my peak in my prime. So I made the leap. I gave over the studio to my business partner. and said, I gotta do a thing. And I took the first company, Gina and Ryan, to accept me in an international contract on cruise ships. So I got into international tourism and entertainment. So I switched from fine art ballet and contemporary dance into entertainment. And again, people told me, oh, you're going to go work with bimbos. Oh, you're just going to be a walking costume. And I disagreed with them. I said, no, I don't think that's what this is about. A lot of narrow-minded people, would perceive me to be a certain way, and I perceive myself as something different. So that contract, I visited 33 countries, performed for, 30,000 people, and it bounced me over to Europe, my dream. I auditioned in Spain, Ukraine, and France gave me the best offer to work in a debut show of Franco Dragon. Franco Dragon, if I can keep talking, Saman, he founded Cirque du Soleil, and that was another transformational director. And I got to work under this visionary who applied, they were transforming traditional French cabaret into the modern age. So LED screens. And again, a lot of tech was applied. However, as beautiful as that show was, as much as I loved it, and I loved being in French cabaret, the show, because they were dealing with lots of outside effects. There was terrorism, there was many things affecting theater going and tourism at the time. The show eventually, of course, in the pandemic, shut down for almost 2 years. And after that, it was bought and sold and laid everyone off. And at that time, I had 8-year career as a professional international dancer. I had performed on the world's most famous stages in Bollywood and Hollywood. I'm in Hollywood movies and documentaries and sports events and global level. And it was an amazing achievement. International minor celebrity. I worked with a bunch of celebrities, and it was my time to exit the stage gracefully. And then what? And then what? So, luckily, being in France, which is a beautiful country, we had the opportunity to be on a re-education scheme. And I said, well, I am going to get the best education possible right now. This is a big moment for me. It's going to set up the next 2 decades of my life. What am I going to do? What am I going to do and where am I going to go? Then, luckily, I had a friend who I admired who was getting into blockchain and all this, said, well, you need to talk to Hina at École de Pont. And I said, École de what? And she's like, École de Pont. And for me, I wasn't familiar. It's a top engineering school. It wasn't really in my vision. And I said, what would a professional dancer, ex-professional dancer, go to a business school and then, and an engineering school? She goes, just talk to her. You're really bright. And what I had found by this time was I really spent time with people who saw me for who I was, who said, "You're bright. You have a vision. You need to go and with more people like you." They really saw me. And I had talked to a few schools before, and I think they were a bit confused about my profile. I would say I have a unique profile, and I think that's an advantage, but not everyone sees that, right? Not everyone sees that potential. And I know that I want to be with people who see me, who can really push me and develop me. And the other schools, I could feel that they were a bit cog in a wheel. Okay, well, this is our program. I don't know how you'd fit in, and this is what you do, and that's the output. And I didn't get a great feeling, but I didn't know. This was a new adventure to me. So I called it Col de Pont. I called Hina, and Hina was a different story. 10-minute phone conversation. And she got excited about who I was. She got excited about my vision. She was different. She was very human and very tailored and custom. And she goes, well, next you got to talk to Saman. I go, "Ooh, okay." And I went through the interview process, and I pitched my pitch of what I want to do. Why would a dancer in entertainment tourism want to go into a technology innovation leadership program? Well, because this industry, mega industry, this huge global industry needs people with an arts creative background who also know business and technology. It's everything is technology now. And this is the way to transform, to level up, to grow, and to build the future is with this skill set. And Saman and Hina and the whole school were about this vibe, and they've changed my mind. And I didn't have the mindset I have now, but I had like a baby mindset, right? Because I wasn't totally with the right people yet. And I was so thrilled when they offered and accepted me into a cohort in 2023. Yeah, start 2024 was the full program and graduation year. And I don't know, I'll pass it over to Saman because that was my whole pre-story. I can tell you I was really scared and sad. I had lost my job. And
Well, you had extensive experience, of course, in delivering, at very high level, global levels, as you mentioned, in arts and in entertainment. So that's already an industry that is overlooked by, as you said, most of schools. Whereas here we do value, and also we do believe that, as you mentioned, the future of all industries would require leaders who understand technology for not only leadership aspects of it, but also to co-innovate with stakeholders, to redefine their operation models and everything else. So no, that was for us an obvious match. So then for you, share some challenges and how you managed to go through them, maybe before the decision-making process or maybe at the beginning of the program. What would be your return on the experience for those who are considering joining a similar challenge?
yeah, the decision-making process to say yes to École de Pont and the LeadTech program. Well, I called a few other programs, and also I looked at schools in America and other more online programs, but I knew I wanted to be in person and in-person hybrid. Part of my decision-making process of saying yes to École de Pont was the international trips, Singapore and Silicon Valley. Also was their partnership with IATA Business School. It is a global program, and to go down into Barcelona, I knew I would expand my network. And part of my goal was like to make a career transition, to make a big leap, to do a big level up. I'm making like a vertical leap and a horizontal leap. I needed to expand my network, and it needed to be really, respected, active, bubbly network of, again, people who shared the same values and vision. And what I learned about École de Pont was the cohort was very international. So, and also they had a initiative to bring in women. So it's at least a 50-50 split. And that was what happened in my cohort was there was a 50-50 split of women. We were from all sorts of geographies and industries. And I like that. I don't like same. We need that thought diversity. We need the cultural diversity. We need the different perspectives and insights, people from biotech and agriculture and construction, and we have the arts, and we have gaming, and we have learning and education. And we had a lawyer. We had this awesome mastermind, and it creates a mastermind. And that's what Hina and Saman and at École de Pont was saying, that this is more than just education. This is it's the people we're surrounding ourselves, the journey that we're going to go on. Also, part of my decision making was the customization. I felt really seen. Like you saw me, you listened to my goals, and along the journey, we were communicating about my personal journey and outcome. So I wasn't lost in a structure that was more in love with like the curriculum itself than the students. I felt like École de Pont was in love with its students coming to the school and really about serving them and serving a broader mission that had flexibility and fluidity that can adapt to the fast-paced needs of the skill set and the skill gaps that are happening now. And I can tell you a peek into the future when I went out, because after I graduated, I was retaining a part-time position as a consultant and contractor. And then I hit the big, interviewing and going out for the big jobs. The way that I spoke, the skills that I had gained really hit the mark. And within, 3 weeks, I got my new job. When that job ended, 3 weeks later, I got another job because I had, and that I think is a proof case for that I had the way of the executive presence when it's an executive program. So we learn executive presence, we learn that executive vocabulary, the way to see things and present, the way to think. And that's what was told to me at the beginning is, we're going to work on how we think, how we think and our mindset. And I didn't really understand. I underestimated what mindset could affect, and that how a school would say, oh, it's a mindset journey, and I didn't know what that meant. But really, I think it's the thing that makes a difference. Because when I went out into the market, people saw that, and I got hired very quickly. This is in a market where people are unemployed for months or maybe even years. And it's a very scary, shaky marketplace. Again, it reminds me of the Great Recession, and there's a lot of resiliency. And this program, and I know this designed on purpose, Saman, is about nurturing resiliency. And it's just incorporated in the program. So that's the innovation thinking, design thinking. And that's the way that the world is functioning right now. So I feel that École de Ponts hitting it on the mark. I had a sense of that before I said yes. Um, there was scholarship opportunities for women that made my yes a lot easier. And I also sought funding from other organizations to help me in the financial aspect. And because École de Pont is a top school, it was easier for people supporting me to say yes. They said, "Oh, you got into École de Pont?" I said, "Yes." They said, "Wow, well, here's your financing." I said, "Great, thank you." Because there's that trust and that confidence that comes with the heritage and legacy of École de Pont that we all took seriously and continue to take seriously to move forward. And that is something I'm very grateful for, and feel very privileged to be a part of.
Thank you, Hillary, as well. I mean, the diversity that you mentioned also yourself, you brought a very interesting diversity in terms of the innovation challenges that we were doing. I remember when we had this presentation of the preparation for the innovation challenges that you did very good research on the industry indicators of entertainment. For everyone, it was a new dimension, and that was very interesting for everyone to learn and also to start thinking about potential sort of intersections with those industries. So that was also very valuable. So how would you, in terms of the learning experience, with the innovation challenges that you worked on your personal project for three of them, and also you worked on group projects, and then if you could share also on contrasting this experience with what EADA is also bringing in terms of the corporate challenges with the founders, that you go through. You work in teams also to explore and apply the leadership skills in various sort of fields. So if you could also share that the user journey, the learning experience that you went through for innovation and corporate challenges, please.
Absolutely. So, and it's funny, my current company, Storycraft, they help design experiences, including learning experiences, and there's a lot of studies. And I can say that École de Pont has learning experiences that are dynamic and diverse for different learning styles. And it's refreshing. And it was also refreshing because I joined the year that AI hit the big time. And the school, especially Saman, immediately embraced it in a responsible way as a learning tool. And so it was a fascinating time, and it was a dynamic time. So we had modules where we're often standing up. We have whiteboards, we have computer time. We were sent out on task finding journeys out into the streets of Paris, and had to make phone calls to ICPs and peers. And it was not traditional book learning. And for a profile like me, and I think for many of my cohorts, it was absolutely hitting the mark. We could not just absorb the information, we could express and expound and get peer feedback and get a professor feedback. And then we can trial and then we can pilot and then we can have findings and iterations. And this was a masterful way to learn and become accomplished and competent in the new skill set of technology and design thinking. And down in IATA and in Barcelona with the corporate challenges, that was also a reason I said yes. I wanted real world experiences. When things are too theoretical for me personally, I want to be able to be successful in the market. I'm not an academic. I want to be successful in the market. Therefore, we need to have interactions with the market. So both schools really kind of broke that fourth wall and they brought in legacy companies, startup companies who proposed to us real-time case studies and had us work on it. We had a tour of a wonderful car manufacturer in Barcelona, which was an excellent experience. And to understand and really look under the hood of the automotive industry and the changes and challenges that they're facing. And it was phenomenal. The corporate challenges, I think, made the biggest impression on me, whether it was a software app, for maternity populations or the automotive or banking and fintech. That really broadened my horizons. And it was like a sampler platter of someone who's making a career transition to be able to play in an engineering space, to be able to play in a software space was really thrilling. And to be, taken seriously and to have a potential impact in the real world elevated the stakes. And also, there was a really good supply chain game that we played. We had a software that was brought in, and then one of my first jobs after graduation was working in aviation supply chain and supply and demand and sourcing, and also sustainable components. And you never know like where this journey is gonna lead, at least for a profile like me who had a big open horizon in front of them. So everything became uh, very, very rich, very, very fun way to learn, and also intense. Saman, you were known to have very intense modules. We knew that when we were going to go to Paris, then you told us from the start, this is going to be intense. It was lots of writing, lots of research, lots of thinking, and you were there to kind of handhold us on the way when I got lost. I remember in a particular project, I got lost in my research phase, and you were there to very graciously guide me in the different phases of adoption and learning. And I thought that was a really wonderful experience to have that personalized guides and outreach and check-ins for these very intensive process. Because in the end, especially in Paris, we were expected to perform, to give out to the result, especially in the pitches, and especially in the final module. It was very serious. We were sweating. And you said, you're going to stay up till midnight and you're going to be, racing to the finish. And we were. And the sense of accomplishment at the end was something I'll always remember. It, we earned this degree. We earned this degree. Um, with the grading and the effort and the investment and the length. And I know that part of the measurement is you're measuring the length that we traveled, right? Individually. And you're not just benchmarking on, criteria, which is part of it, of course, but we're also measured on the length that we're personally traveling in our learning experience. And that was really touching and very fulfilling. And we felt accomplished. And we did feel like I felt like a new person. My family and friends were saying, "Wow, Hillary, you're different." And I could jump into conversations, very topical, very relevant, and very futuristic. Um, yeah, it was a transformation at the end.
Thank you, Hillary. Well, you're very right that the journey that you make, the length, but also the depth of it as well. Since you have like the immersive week here and in Barcelona, in Paris, and also in Silicon Valley, in Asia, and Singapore. So I think that is a very important element to really feel the challenges of the real world and the opportunities. And while you mentioned stimulations, but that we do also to enrich this learning experience, but the majority on testing, getting the relevance of what you think through the market. I think that is something that was very important in shaping how you would think about putting projects together and presenting it and validate your assumptions with the market, and also trying to convince people why it makes sense and gather real data. So those aspects, I think you did a very good job yourself as well, because you were not, of course, it was not the industries of your comfort, the projects that you presented for the group work. Of course, they were not directly in line, but you managed to really you had a very strong profile. But I think the exercise of this, as you mentioned, resilience, plasticity in terms of leading the challenging times, the stressful times. Of course, there are moments that there's a disagreement in the team. There are moments that you have joyful moments because you win the pitch competition. So those experiences have been well received. And you mentioned you feel like a different person after the program. So now tell us about the after the program, like different industries that you worked with, or different sectors or geographies that now you have the credibility and also the knowledge to interact with, maybe build within. So tell us about that aspect, please.
I will tell you about that aspect, but I want to do just two more points on the previous aspect. One, the program taught us how to get along as a team, and that's extremely important. Yeah. Second, the program brought in many real world speakers and workers and alumni and contacts to tell about that, share their stories, story sharing about how they're working now in very big industries, with YouTube and space and many different, and their stories inspired me, and especially the women and the people starting out or restarting out. So just going back to the experience of learning, it was inspirational along the way. It was like light posts along the path. This is what could become. So at the end of the program, when you're like, okay, you're free, I was taking notes on everyone else's journey of how they had transformed and what was happening in the market and how I could have pathways into a new career. So, and then also, yes, collaboration and teamwork. So going into the after and the credibility. So I'll start with something that surprised me. Within the program, we had the opportunity to become certified in circular economy with the Circular Economy Alliance, learn about circular business models and apply that knowledge. And part of my postgraduate journey was exploring the American job market, which is not as focused as the same things as Europe. And the American job market was very impressed with the circular economy certificate and knowledge base. People reached out to me on LinkedIn, said, "Wow, tell me more about that." Or like, I want you in this company because you have a circular economy and your understanding of the sustainability and the SDG laws. Um, and I knew that I wanted to stay in a global echelon of work in a global company. I liked working cross-Atlantic. I've been felt called to do that. I continue working in these circles. So when exploring the job market, I had the legs and the credibility and the certifications to continue and to elevate working on the global level, in the global echelon, especially between American and European markets. And I had the credentials from a top university in France, in Europe, so I could access Fortune 500 companies who had very strict criteria. And so I was in the running. I was in the running, and it's been fabulous. I've had lots of referrals from my referral network, and they can just look at my resume and say, oh, École de Ponts, circular economy, executive MBA. We need that profile. So it was sort of like a shortcut um, into a different world and to be perceived differently. And I no longer get the people coming to me saying, oh, and kind of. shooing me away. I have the credentials. I speak and act and present and move as an executive. I have executive offers and I have great consideration and great opportunities. And as I said, one of my first opportunities was in aviation, an aviation supply chain who were launching sustainable product lines into Delta, Alaska, and global airlines around the world. And that was an opportunity that was recognized because of this degree. I would not have achieved that opportunity. And I walked in as associate general manager and was quickly promoted to general manager, um, and which bounced me to the next opportunity here at an empathy tech, a very cutting edge and also human-centered um, company, which part of my journey has been a question of aligning my values. And Simon's interest, especially with the ReTech Center, which was being launched during my time actively at the school, and the ReTech Center with the Industry 5.0 principles is creating business for a better world, which is the slogan, right? And we are equipped to be a part of and build a better world. And that's a value system, right? So I feel I can more confidently choose, right? I'm the chooser. I can choose who I want to be working with that are aligned with my values and my education and bring that power and relevance to really move the needle on things I care about. So again, my parents told me do what you love. I had a career as an international performer, which I loved, and now I have a career in business innovation, which I love because I feel I'm on the side for good, tech for good. And I have, oh gosh, invitations to UNESCO. I was part of the um, the diplomatic technology summit, one of the first ones there through the Women in Tech Forum. Um, I've had invitations still to these wonderful level of change makers and round tables that I, with my previous credentials before the school, I would maybe be viewed as a curiosity, but now I fit. I can walk into these rooms of change makers and executives and participate and contribute. And that was the dream. That's kind of where I felt I always wanted to be, have the gravitas for that.
Thank you, Hillary. So actually, I wanted to ask you about the ecosystem that was open to you from both schools, from EADA and from École de Pont Business School, and the alumni network, and from your cohorts and from, course before and after you, because um, you're also very much in contact with the community and you join our events as much as you can. So, how much of that contributes to a sort of a lifelong learning approach and also keeping you always in the flow of what is happening? So, can you feel that vibe of that we want to make sure that you're still connected and you're updated? So, how does it translate into your day to day?
Yeah, from the beginning, this was also a reason I said yes to this school was the emphasis on continuing alumni connection and the network. I knew that for me, the network was going to be paramount for my transition, and I needed a school that had a bubbling, interesting network. And so it's very fun to start an executive education with a cohort of people who are in mid-career stride doing fascinating things and now are in a program to literally level up and expand, with the depth and the breadth in their vertical. And so a recent example, we have a gentleman who's in space innovation and technology. So it's an amazing ride along with him to be connected in this space journey. Um, Also with biotech, a really fascinating field, and software. And I think probably beyond the demographics of their presidents and VPs and founders and all of this, where the value is the support. So when I started my new position, my cohort, we have our active, WhatsApp chat. They reached out and they reached out, what do you need? That's great. Or they're on LinkedIn showing support publicly. And the support is something like that rocket ship that we're all on together. And I think that change, impactful change happens in a community. And this is a community not just of my fellow graduates, but also of the school as like, the spaceship, who is so active and alive with the LeadTech Center and your annual events and all the branches off of what École de Ponts and the LeadTech program is doing. It's very relevant whether if I needed to go find someone working in fashion, I can. I can just reach out. I found an alumni recently reconnected who's doing AI, kind of like policy and helping businesses do this. It's very rich, it's very topical, and it's very active. This is a very active and innovative school. So I feel it's a home away from home. Whenever I'm in Paris, I can go and visit and learn about something new because it's always on the edge and have that intellectual like bath and then meet people who are leading on the edge of this and inviting me to listen in or participate. And I think that's a huge value because this is a forever value. And then I'm happy that I can contribute. And there's also the school makes room, and I see it all the time, to invite the alumni and the people connected back and to contribute and to expand and to enrich and to deepen, which I think is very healthy because we're out there in the market, we're out there innovating, we're out there in the startups, and we're out there, working in all sorts of verticals. So it's very much alive. I'm very proud to be a part of that network also. Um, yeah, I guess
Thank you.
does that answer the question?
Thank you, Hillary. So I think we covered also very good questions that were asked from participants that you intuitively just opened the, different doors and you covered most of the questions. So maybe for the final one, so what do you miss if you could go back for one of the experiences? Would it be the sleepless night of the innovation challenge, or would it be like the final pitch? Would it be, the stage of graduation, or would it be just the beginning that you were still maybe a bit lost and you were still exploring? What would be the moment that you would like to re-experience briefly, maybe, if you could, if you believe in
Wow.
parallel universes?
Well, if I could re-experience, my mind always goes back to Colbato. It's like the
Yes.
executive coaching where we really had some transformational mindset experiences. But I also really liked just the dinners with my class, going to having an apero afterwards and laughing or catching a drink at, and talking about, the assignment and like what we need to deliver on and the thrill of the exploration and um gosh. Yeah, I would say I would go back to an innovation challenge where we were like sent out into the streets to like talk to the ideal buyer and gather information. I think that was a lot of fun.
Some fun
We ended up
stories
going
as
to like a
well.
Paris like a museum and we had a lot of side quests that was just and then we ended up on a cruise um bateau croisière later that evening with the school. That was a lot of fun. Oh, maybe that experience.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much, Hillary. Well, looking forward to seeing you soon. I'm still waiting for you. In Paris, it's a bit warm now as we speak, but hopefully, yes, the temperature drops a bit. We have you here for our next event. And any final words to share before we say goodbye? What would be for some people who are hesitating now? So give a message for those who hesitate and one for those who just joined and they're still, they don't know what exactly is waiting for them.
Well, gosh, for those who are hesitating, if you feel unique, if you feel different, if you feel like you have a vision and want to make a difference, say yes to this school. It's it's transformational and it's for unique profiles. Okay? We're all outstanding and you become more outstanding in the program. Um, for those who are just beginning, read all the pre-work. Oh, I would say, yeah, just say yes to all the opportunities along the way, which is very easy to do because it's a conducive learning environment to take advantage of all the opportunities. And if you want to launch your own pilot or your own enterprise within and the program, start it, do it, and workshop it. We did that a lot in my cohort. Many of us were entrepreneurial, so we workshopped our our businesses and our business models and our sticking points together in the modules, which was an amazing way to grow together and to learn about each other and also to have like a high level consultation with all of the resources coming at us to form our own business and strengthen our own practices. So I would say that's a major advantage for those with the entrepreneurial inclination.
Thank you. Thank you, Hillary. See you soon. Thanks for those who joined us, and you know where to find us. Thank you. Bye bye. Thanks.
Thanks, Aman.
Bonne soirée. Bye bye.